Hey guys, Ponce here on the PBE, here to talk to you guys about some rather interesting and deceptively extensive changes to Taliyah. They might seem rather simple on the surface, but they kind of change everything about how she works. So yeah, let's get right into it. The main thing of it is that they've actually changed how W works. Vector casting is now the thing, as opposed to the, I don't know what it was called before, but that kind of strange, unique casting thing where it locked you out of casting other spells. So obviously that's going to change a whole bunch of things on her, namely how her EW combo works, in that it is now WE. And I'll talk about that in a minute and sort of explain what's going on there. But just some minor other changes, get that out of the way first. Of course, to compensate, given that this is a buff, Seismic Shove, the W itself has been nerfed in the sense that the cooldown has been increased as you level. So it starts off at the same at rank 1, 16 seconds, and it used to scale up 14, 12, 10, 8. It is now 15, 14, 13, 12. So at max rank, it's actually a 4-second, or the cooldown is 4 seconds longer. Aside from that, the actual damage nerf to her comes in the form of the E. So each subsequent, mine hit trigger thing. So like when you pull people back through it or they dash through it, they take multiple hits. That goes boom, 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 and each of those rocks will blow up, or one of the rocks blow up. Those now deal 12 damage each subsequent hit. So that's pretty big damage nerf there if you get like the full combo off. Now, in terms of what this actually means for the W itself in vector casting, well, it means, yeah, there's no lockout phase. So the combo is now E, or a WE as opposed to EW. So you cast it first, and then you can cast it immediately after with some other spell. If you really want to, in theory, you could cast like WQ, which might be useful under some context, but anyway, I'll show you what this looks like on Misfortune herself right over here.
To conquer our fears, we must move forward.
A bit easier to show on minions, but
See,
basically, so that's the full combo right there, just how I use that. Notice how I cast the W first, gives her a lot less time to respond to it. And that wasn't a combo there, it's just me clearing minions out of the way because they're in my base. So of course you can still do the old style combo of E, W if you really want to. It's just slower and now simply deals less damage, so there's no reason to do it. Alright. So actually in my case I still kind of have the instincts to do it that way, so I need to think about it a little bit in terms of how to do it. But yeah, my feelings on this are somewhat mixed. Like, on one hand, I do see why they changed it, though perhaps not for the same reasons that Riot actually changed it for, in that a lot of the time I was actually just throwing out the W on its own, simply because if you threw out the E, it would telegraph the W, and as annoying as it was to sort of deal with people when I was streaming and stuff who have no idea what the champion works, and say, hey, you can use the E and W, you should boon that all the time. It's like, no, you don't want to do that all the time, because it telegraphs the W, and sometimes all you need is the CC to knock people back into your team, because that guarantees the kill, etc., etc. But to me, the problem was, oh, it's you again.
The desert lies beneath the sand.
Anyway, the problem I found for this was simply that it felt like a waste of a kit, and almost like weird that you were using the W straight up on its own. Like it almost felt like the E was poorly designed if you were forced to use that way, a spell just kind of on its own that way, like that. For example, like right there. That's what I'm talking about, the instinct, and just using the W first because I'm talking about something. But yeah, it's a pretty minor complaint, but if you're using the W on its own like that, that might be indication of some sort of problem. What I actually don't like, though, is that at the end of the day, I did appreciate the combo for what it was. It was something unique and different to League of Legends, like something that other kits didn't have, and it was essentially the Taliyah playstyle. Aside from the fact that her threaded volley, the Q is kind of unique-ish. It's like a mini Lucian ult all the time. But yeah, I don't know. It's just it worries me that perhaps this is the direction of League of Legends. Like we're going to go back to the old, generic gold standard basic kit of Aurelia release every 2 weeks. Well, not every 2 weeks, but so that kind of thing. Why do you keep doing it? It's like she's like got radar or something. Anyway, that's another dead misfortune. So yeah, anyway, like a homogenization of the game. We'll see with future champion releases, but I don't know if Riot becomes skittish to do new things. I don't like the direction that's going to head in. Now, the other thing that I don't really like is sort of the rationale behind the nerf. Now, this is just purely a Riot post. Now, incidentally, in the description below, I will link this, sort of like the Riot discussion about why they did this and all that kind of stuff. And keep in mind, this is Xenon the Stoic, specifically speaking. Like, I'm not sure if he misspoke or he's misreading what the player base was saying, or just sort of overemphasizing for their own sake, or, you know, maybe just because English isn't his first language, he's not stating it very clearly. But essentially, if you read between the lines, and to an extent actually read what he actually says, he's sort of talking about how basically the W lockout in combination with the E was too difficult for players to handle. Like, they just couldn't get it or something, which is worrying if that's actually the case. I mean, I played the champion, you know, a few times in the PB, and I got it pretty much right away. Like, it was weird maybe the first 1 or 2 games, but I understood, you know, a progression towards, okay, I got to do this, and I can make this work. But I mean, if players were playing this and just they simply couldn't wrap their heads around using the, I forget what the old W cast style was called, but the whole lockout thing, I don't know, that really kind of worries me for the health of the game and sort of where we're going. And to an extent, it mirrors what I've been seeing in solo queue of late, but that's another topic. Let's not get into that. So, I mean, it either means like it was straight up too difficult for people, which is not good, or people have such short attention spans that they played it once and couldn't see where to go with it at all, and were like just completely gave up on it and were like, fuck it. And that's also not good, because, you know, if your short attention span is that not good, you know, you're that short, I don't know what to say. But in any case, this is what we have now, sort of slightly more homogenized Taliyah with the vector casting. Now, what does this mean in terms of her actual overall strength? I imagine it's quite good, simply because if I were to guess, I think a lot of Taliyah's strength came from not many people playing her, and therefore they didn't really know what she was doing, and will kind of run into the E. Given that it's now vector casting, perhaps she will see more play, and people kind of get used to that. And because the thing is, like, you can generally predict where the E is coming from, so I don't know. Now that deals less damage.
The stone here is so beautiful.
I don't know. We'll see. Again, I am rambling a bit at this point. This is sort of my. I'm going off on tangents here, but the fact that the E made this so telegraphable made the W easy to dodge. And given that people don't do that anymore, I think people are just going to get more used to dodging the E or predicting it and that kind of thing. But maybe it'll balance out. Maybe it won't. Maybe the damage will simply be too high. Granted, you know, here's me talking about its weaknesses, but just landing a straight up E is pretty, or W is pretty easy. Anyway, I'm going to get the hell out of here. You guys maybe have some thoughts on that or something. Those are mine. I'm off to go stream on twitch.tv/Ponce. Probably not on Taliyah. Incidentally, I should probably mention, I don't need to mention this. This is completely unrelated, but actually I don't like playing champions when I know they're going to be drastically changed, or rather the drastic change is already on the PBE. For example, like Trundle. I stopped playing him before, right before I knew that they were going to change Trendy Force and Ghost, because I figured I'd probably try to use those kinds of things. Anyway, that's entirely irrelevant. I won't be playing Taliyah, most likely, is what it boils down to. See you guys around. Thanks for watching.